On this edition for Saturday, October 10th, President Trump holds his first large public event since his coronavirus diagnosis. And our Roads to Election 2020 series takes us to the state of Maine. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Clorfine Foundation, Charles Rosenblum. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. President Trump held his first in-person event since returning to the White House from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, even though it's unclear if he is still contagious with COVID-19. He revealed his first positive test less than 9 days ago. The president spoke to a crowd of invited guests from a White House balcony overlooking the South Lawn.
Well, I'm feeling great. I don't know about you. How's everyone feeling?
Much of the speech addressed campaign issues, and it featured multiple attacks on his Democratic opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden. But White House spokesperson Judd Deere told reporters the speech was an official event, and the campaign was not involved.
This is the single most important election in the history of our country. Get out and vote, and I love you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
In a pre-taped interview that aired on Fox News last night, the president said he was medication-free as of the previous 8 hours. He said he was retested for COVID-19, but claimed he did not know the results.
I have been retested, and I haven't even found out numbers or anything yet, but I've been retested, and I know I'm at either the bottom of the scale or free.
When is your next test going to be?
I don't know. Probably tomorrow, Mark. They test every couple of days, I guess, but it's really at a level now that's been great to see it disappear.
In his speech today, the president did not mention his COVID-19 test results. His doctor has not answered questions since last Monday, and no one has released information on when the president last tested negative for the virus. Mr. Trump has already announced he will travel to Florida on Monday for a campaign rally. Vice President Biden campaigned in Erie, Pennsylvania late this afternoon. Hurricane Delta made landfall in Louisiana last night, starting as a Category 2 storm and weakening as it made its way north. Delta struck just a few miles away from the area ravaged by Hurricane Laura 6 weeks ago, bringing heavy winds and rain to the already damaged city of Lake Charles. As the storm moved inland today, much of Louisiana remained under flood warnings, and hundreds of thousands are without power. Delta is the 10th named storm to hit the continental U.S., breaking a record. For more on the storm and the record-setting hurricane season, I spoke with meteorologist Jen Carafagno with the Weather Channel, who joined us from Atlanta. Jen, first, how bad was the storm that just landed?
Hurricane Delta was a strong Category 2, and first of all, we saw it, sort of menacing the Gulf Coast as a major hurricane, a Cat 3, winds 120 miles per hour. And the problem was it was building up water at that time, so the surge came in. We saw at least 8-foot storm surge. Those numbers can never be verified until days or even weeks after the storm makes landfall. And it came in with peak winds measured at 100 miles per hour. We saw that at Texas Point. We saw 96 mile per hour winds in Lake Charles, which is still reeling from Hurricane Laura. So this was a tough hit for the state of Louisiana.
And when those storm surges hit, there are so many tiny little communities that are along the water. It's incalculable the damage that the storm surge does versus the actual wind and rain.
The storm surge has so much power. Just think about the force of water. Just think about trying to walk when you're at the beach and you walk in the water coming up to the edge and it moves you, right? I mean, that level of force is there, but think about it up 6 feet, 7 feet, even up to 11 feet we know is possible with this. So that's really the big concern of those communities right there by the water that were prone to storm surge to begin with, was they were going to get anywhere from 8 to 11 feet of storm surge into their homes.
What's been happening to the Gulf Coast this hurricane season?
What a hurricane season we have had. 10 landfalls of tropical storms and hurricanes. That's a new record. That beats a record back in 1916. But we've had 4 alone just on the coast of Louisiana. And you look at the trend this season, so many have hit the Gulf Coast. And it goes back to just the pattern that we've been stuck in. Big ridge of high pressure over the Atlantic nosing in, and just a little bit of a weakness that has allowed these storms to come into the Gulf and then move up and hit the Gulf Coast.
And when does this end? I mean, we see tropical storms forming out in the ocean, and usually we're like, well, that's going to just go ahead and die out. But this year, not so much.
This is a year like no other. We are already at our 25th named storms. We've had 26 storms. We've about more than doubled what you would see in a typical season. And we still have a month and a half left to go in hurricane season. This point in the season, you typically look closer to home, the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Caribbean, right off the southeastern coast for where storms will form. But I think anything goes this year. We still have an area to watch right now active out in the main development region of the Atlantic. And we just have to stay vigilant, I think, well to the end of hurricane season, which is November the 30th, but probably even beyond.
A lot of these storms pick up energy when they go over warm water. What does climate change have to do when it comes to warming the temperatures like the areas in the Gulf Coast to make these storms even worse?
The hurricanes that have affected the U.S. have gone through rapid intensification, meaning that they have gained more than 35-mile-per-hour wind speeds in 24 hours. And that happens when they're on and over really warm sea surface temperatures. And when you have year after year of record warm temperatures, both over land and over the water, that's going to build up these deeper layers of warm water and allow for more rapid intensification to happen. So whether we see more hurricanes or less, what's possible and most likely is that the stronger ones will get even stronger and we'll have more of those.
Jen Carfagno from the Weather Channel joining us from Atlanta. Thanks so much. Last night, a federal judge blocked Texas Governor Greg Abbott's order to limit the number of drop-off locations for mail-in ballots in the state. Earlier this month, Abbott issued a proclamation that would allow only one ballot drop-off location per county. The judge wrote that the move would limit voters by, quote, creating voter confusion, unquote, and dismissed the governor's claim that the measure would reduce fraud. Texas has strict limitations for mail-in voting, only allowing voters who are either 65 and older, sick, disabled, or who will be away from their home county during the voting period to apply for mail-in ballots. In another ruling on ballot drop boxes, a federal judge in Pennsylvania rejected a lawsuit from the Trump campaign seeking to ban the boxes in that state today. The judge said the campaign did not meet the burden of proof that the drop-off boxes would create ballot fraud. Across the U.S., new cases of COVID-19 continue to rise, according to the New York Times. Cases are nearing record highs in the upper Midwest and Rocky Mountain states. The Times database shows an average of 47,759 cases per day last week. That's a 12% increase in cases from 2 weeks ago, but still well below the peak average rate of more than 66,000 per day in late July. As of this morning, the Times reports that since the new coronavirus reached the U.S. last winter, it has infected nearly 7.7 million people in the United States and killed at least 213,500. Deaths are now averaging around 700 per day this month, below record levels, but far more than were reported in early July. Globally, there are now more than 36 million confirmed COVID-19 cases and more than 1 million people have died, according to Johns Hopkins University. In Iran today, residents of Tehran were ordered to wear face masks when they are in public spaces, both indoors and outdoors. Iran has the highest rate of infections and deaths from COVID-19 in the Middle East. This week, the country had a record 239 deaths. In Russia, temporary hospitals built to treat coronavirus patients reopened in Moscow yesterday after a record number of new infections. Russia recorded more than 12,000 new cases, the highest daily increase since the start of the pandemic. After nearly 2 weeks of intense fighting for control of the ethnic Armenian enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, the former Soviet republics of Azerbaijan and Armenia agreed to a limited ceasefire early today. The conflict has claimed the lives of hundreds of soldiers and dozens of civilians. Special correspondent Simon Ostrovsky is in the rebel region and brings us an update. He's been reporting with support from the Pulitzer Center.
The foreign ministers of Armenia and Azerbaijan met in Moscow overnight to hammer out a ceasefire, which came into effect earlier today at noon. Up until the noon deadline, hostilities continued. You could hear sirens here in Shushi and in the capital of the self-declared Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Stepanakert. Ever since noon, it seems like that ceasefire has been holding.
However, along the front line where we don't have access, the defense ministries of both countries claim fighting continues. Nevertheless, the ceasefire is a respite for those in urban areas. We've seen ordinary residents come back out into the streets after spending over a week in bomb shelters.
Just yesterday, this church in Shushi was struck twice by a rocket or by shelling, and we're told that 4 or 5 people were injured here, one of them a journalist who was injured seriously. I'm holding in my hands pieces of the weapon that destroyed this building partially. We spoke earlier to the deacon of this church. Were you here yesterday when this happened?
Yes, I was here, and I came the first. The day was lying the journalist by my car. I went to hospital of Stepanakert.
How many people were injured here?
Maybe 4 or 5.
Injured?
Yes. It's the miracle
Yeah.
that no one was killed in this place.
The two ministers of the two warring nations agreed to have a ceasefire for humanitarian purposes in order for them to be able to collect their dead and some of their wounded from the battlefield. This is not a peace deal, and this ceasefire was agreed to last for just several days. Hostilities could resume at any point.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un presented what appeared to be new intercontinental ballistic missiles at a military parade celebrating the 75th anniversary of the country's ruling party. The North Korean leader warned on state television that his country will, quote, fully mobilize its nuclear arsenal as a defensive measure. He did not name any countries as targets.
We will continue to strengthen self-defensive war deterrence to deter, control, and manage all dangerous attempts and threatening acts, including ever-growing nuclear threats from hostile forces.
Analysts say the new missile shown on an 11-axle transporter vehicle is bigger than any seen before in North Korea and could be one of the world's largest road-mobile liquid-fueled missiles if it becomes operational. President Trump last met with Kim Jong-un in June of 2019 at the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Envoys for the two countries have met since then, but there have not been any new denuclearization talks between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. For more national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. Negotiations over funding for a new stimulus package seem to have stalled again today. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the administration's $1.8 trillion offer insufficient, in part over what Democrats say is inadequate funding for state and local governments. In our continuing series, Roads to Election 2020, we take you to the state of Maine, where small businesses that typically rely on a summer filled with tourists have been shuttering since the start of the pandemic. For some, survival has come down to their ability to pay the rent. But with no agreement in sight on a new relief package, the future remains bleak for many more. NewsHour Weekend's Christopher Booker has our story.
October is a funny business in Maine. Warm days and cold nights. New England's northern tip offers a confusing waltz between the seasonal past and what's to come. But this October is particularly difficult to read. After a summer nearly canceled by the pandemic, the fall is offering Portland a few extra chances at economic recovery. But winter is coming, and the brief resumption of business, made possible by warmer weather and outdoor space, is in its final days.
Well, if we continue to get weather like this, we'll be in pretty good shape. But it's Portland, and we know that won't continue for too long.
Mary Alice Scott is the executive director of Portland Buy Local, a nonprofit organization that works to support and promote 400 local independent and small businesses.
We surveyed members during the height of what would normally be the busy season, and about a third of them said they were considering permanently closing.
Considering closing because this past summer was not really summer at all. Normally, the summer season helps carry businesses through the slower winter months. But July and August brought only a fraction of the normal traffic to Portland's downtown businesses, and sales were down substantially. Initially, the CARES Act, the $2.2 trillion stimulus package passed in March, allowed businesses to use a percentage of bailout funds to pay their rent. But Scott says only 11% of the businesses she works with were able to receive support for their rent.
And now that help has dried up. The program has closed, and there doesn't seem to be a new program that will be arriving anytime soon. Everything from restaurants to real estate have been really suffering. They've seen a decline in revenue, sometimes 80–90%.
This is what forced Damian Sansonetti and his wife, Ilma Lopez, to close their restaurant, Piccolo. When Portland restaurants were allowed to open for dine-in customers, Sansonetti said they owed upward of $20,000 in back rent accumulated during the shutdown, a time when Piccolo had not been generating any revenue. Their landlord was not willing to negotiate their rate going forward.
Unfortunately, due to COVID and the pandemic, a 20-seat intimate restaurant with the needed necessities of what you have to do can't survive. So we unfortunately had to close permanently that restaurant.
But Sansonetti and his wife were in a somewhat enviable position. They have another restaurant, Cheval. Opened 3 years ago, in large part due to the success of Piccolo, Cheval's winter outlook is a bit better. Sansonetti and his wife own the building.
It's definitely been an advantage for us, but at the same time, it's also, we need to make money to pay the mortgage because, you know, our house and everything else is tied to
This business.
the business.
Like nearly every other restaurant in the country, Cheval was forced to pivot to takeout, and since July, limited outdoor dining.
What percentage of business do you think you're doing compared to a year ago?
We're probably doing 50 to 60% less of our business than we were compared to a year ago.
But not every business in Portland has been able to pivot. And with the CARES Act funds now depleted, the coming winter looks even more ominous. The State Theater in downtown Portland hosted its last show on March 11th. At the time, General Manager Lauren Wayne thought the shutdown would only be temporary.
And I just tried to reassure people that this wasn't a long-term thing, because at that time we had no idea. And then, 2 weeks after that, it was different again. And so we met again, and the closure was longer. By that point, we had to lay off most of our, if not all of our part-time staff and our seasonal staff, and that was really hard.
How many people?
That was about 170 people, and some of these people have been with us, since we reopened in 2010. So it was really difficult, and it's still very difficult.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But you still had your permanent staff.
We still had our 10 full-time staff members, which was great. Without, I think, the PPP loan, that would have been different, but it's just not enough. And so I had to lay off 40% of my full-time staff in July, starting in August. And we're all now on reduced salaries and reduced hours, what's remaining of us.
Despite the staggering losses, like Cheval, the State Theater is in an enviable position. The parent company owns the building. Wayne doesn't see the State Theater opening its doors again under normal circumstances until a year from now, while their smaller venue just down the block, Port City Music Hall, is closed for good.
This is an absolutely dire situation. We have no hope in opening this year. I mean, what business can survive generating zero revenue for over a year? I don't know any business or industry that can. So if we do not see some kind of targeted federal legislation to this industry in particular, it will be massive closures across the whole country. And in Portland, Maine in particular, that's going to hurt really bad.
Portland's small businesses aren't the only ones who are worrying about what comes next.
I was in municipal government. I was on the school board during the Great Recession, and we would gladly go back to that, frankly.
Justin Costa has been a Portland City Councilman for 6 years.
The revenue loss is so steep, the uncertainty is so great that all you can try to do is spread the pain as equitably as possible.
At the end of September, the city announced it was eliminating 65 positions, mainly in parks and recreation.
We know that ultimately, for most businesses, this is about cash flow, and the city is only the smallest player in that. What we really need is continuing support from the federal government. That's the only thing that's really going to make a dent in the issues that most businesses are facing right now.
Because it's not like there's money available at the state.
Right. Yeah, the state coffers are also strained for many of the same reasons.
So then where does this leave Portland?
It's like a false reality right now, right? You see people waiting and drinking beer, and then you're like, oh, you're back to normal. This is not normal, and it's not going to be normal for quite some time. So I think Portland is going to see it in the next few months. It's going to be pretty bad.
The frustrating thing for me is that it's a choice, right? It is a choice that politicians are making to not create new policies. And in doing so, they are allowing local businesses to fail. And if we don't get new policies from the federal government in particular, pretty quickly, then we're going to see scores of local businesses closing in Portland and across the country.
For the Political State of Play in Maine, I spoke with Stephen Missler, Chief Political Correspondent for Maine Public Radio.
Well, right now, President Trump is in big trouble in Maine statewide. Joe Biden has a 10 to 12-point lead here, according to the latest polls. But Maine is also very unique in the sense that it divides its electoral votes. It's one of just 2 states that does that. And in the 2nd congressional district, we have just 2 here. President Trump is actually running neck and neck with Joe Biden. And that result could be a big deal going forward if there happens to be a very close race in the Electoral College. I mean, 4 years ago, President Trump campaigned here a half dozen times, and I was able to win that 2nd congressional district, which has 1 electoral vote, which would have figured pretty prominently if there was a close race that time. It wasn't. He didn't need it then, but he might need it this year.
And how have the campaigns dedicated their resources in Maine?
Well, it's interesting. Joe Biden, he's really just begun to have a ground game here. He didn't have a statewide state director until this summer. He didn't campaign at all here or even send surrogates in the primary that we had back in March. President Trump, on the other hand, has sent his family members here, various surrogates from his campaign. They've been here. He came here in June to tour a swab factory in rural Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not sure if he'll make it back here this time because of the coronavirus infection that he had. He might have other priorities in bigger states with more electoral votes, but he was on the map, or he was on the radar potentially to come here. We were thinking he would up until his diagnosis.
So the Trump campaign, at least in the amount of resources that it's devoted, still thinks that it's a winnable state, and it's not a write-off for them or a foregone conclusion. What are the issues that are driving people right now? What are the things that they're most concerned about?
Well, I think that's pretty reflective of what you see in other parts of the country. I mean, coronavirus is a huge issue, even though the state has done a pretty good job of, holding off its infection rates. We've done quite well here. Our governor has managed to strike a balance between allowing some economic activity and also keeping down caseloads and the death rate. But that is still top of mind. People are very worried about it. The economy is always an issue, but of course the coronavirus and the economy are pretty much linked at this point. Those are the 2 big issues. Healthcare is a big issue. That's certainly an issue that Democrats are running on here. Those are the main ones at the moment.
On election night, or possibly the days after the election, what should we be on the lookout for when it comes to numbers from Maine or election-related, voting-related issues for Maine?
Well, a couple of things. If there is a close race in the 2nd congressional district, that race will be decided by ranked choice voting, which means that we may not know the winner of that particular district for some time. It could take a week, because what happens is, if neither candidate obtains an outright majority, it goes to a ranked choice runoff. And that requires state officials basically going to every single town in the state, and we have over 400 of them, and collecting paper ballots and then bringing them back to our state capital and then running that tabulation. But that takes time.
Yeah.
And so we may not know then on election night who won that 2nd congressional district. If the polls are right, we'll probably know who won statewide, especially if Joe Biden can hold on to that big lead.
All right, Steve Mistler, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation, Charles Rosenblum. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.